This will work. Come on. All right. Go ahead and start with Amber. So Amber, got a couple minutes just to give a quick intro on yourself, why you're running, what main issues you're going to be focusing on the campaign, and what you want to do with cannabis.
Okay. Well, Amber Newman. I've been in Oceanside for 15 years. I have been a longtime local and very vocal advocate and contributor to a variety of community organizations, LGBTQ, the Cultural Arts Foundation. I sit on the board, Charitable Foundation, the museum, basically a lot of areas where we can improve Oceanside and get community involvement. What started my political inclinations in Oceanside was cannabis. And I've been working on getting safe access to cannabis in Oceanside for going on 5 years now. And while a little bit of progress has been made, we are nowhere far enough where we need to be. So, but it taught me a lot about the dysfunction of our council, the way that they infight, the way that they're more worried about their own interests than that of the community. Oceanside passed Prop 64 by 57%, and we still don't have dispensaries. It's ridiculous. So with this opportunity, the creation of District 3, I decided to go ahead and run because basically it's time to change the conversation in Oceanside. We've got a lot of turmoil happening in our council. We've got a lot of infighting, a lot of bickering, and a lot of grudge holding. And because of that, the important work isn't getting done. People aren't being heard and progress isn't being made. So essentially, I'm looking to, if elected, of course, we have the COVID situation to deal with because that's changed everything, which is making economic development so critical, which is another place that cannabis can come into that. We do have the beginnings of that industry thanks to the work that myself and several other dedicated cannabis advocates have done, but we still have a long ways to go. So that's going to be one of the focuses. And also it's just about getting people to work. It's getting people done. It's getting people involved in the process. And they're just, I think people are feeling very disheartened these days and very disenfranchised, and I want to be able to change that. So that's why I'm running. You're muted, Dallin.
All right, cool. There you go. And just so everybody knows, you're running in District 3, correct?
Yes, District 3, which is essentially everything south of Oceanside Boulevard from the coast inland to Vista. Okay.
And who are your opponents at the moment?
Right now, that have filed anyway, I am running against Sherry Mackin, sitting appointed council member Ryan Keim, Southo resident Bill Batchelor, and also I believe another Southo resident by the name of David. Oh, why am I losing his name? Michelle, do you remember his last name? The last guy that jumped in?
I don't recall, I'm sorry.
Vernix or something like that. He's brand new. He just filed, and I can't remember his last name. He ran for council back in 2012 unsuccessfully. That I do know.
Got it. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Michelle, why don't you go ahead and do a quick intro on yourself while you're running, and yeah, what are your main policy focuses?
Absolutely, thank you. Good morning, thank you for having me today. My name is Michelle Gomez, and I'm a candidate running for District 4, as Dallin mentioned. And I'm running for council because I love my city and because I love local politics. I firmly believe that local government is where the rubber meets the road. It's the body that has the most immediate impact on our day-to-day lives. We all know that Congress is slow, the state a bit faster, but our local municipalities have the ability and the power to initiate and follow through with policy that reflects the values of our community. History has shown us that our local government has turned a blind eye to the needs of our community, and I believe it's time for change. It's time for a new Oceanside, an Oceanside that thrives and leads us forward beyond business as usual. I strongly believe we need to elect innovative public servants like myself who want to serve the people with hard work and perseverance. For nearly 2 decades, I have worked to make a difference in the lives of underserved individuals from all walks of life, including women, communities of color, veterans and military families, and those suffering from physical and emotional trauma. My history of community service, including my work as a city and county commissioner, provides me with an in-depth understanding of the multitudes of issues that are impacting Oceanside. I'm committed to taking action on bold initiatives which create lasting change. I believe that we need to refocus ourselves as a city and unite our communities around the values that we share. Safer neighborhoods, a cleaner environment, affordable housing solutions and incremental smart growth, regional solutions to address homelessness, increasing wages, creating good jobs close to home, and most important, economic recovery post-COVID-19. As a former candidate for County Supervisor District 5 in 2018, I openly endorsed and supported cannabis and was against the San Diego County ban on commercial cannabis activity. During that campaign, I was dubbed North County's cannabis champion. I now have competition with Amber for that title. As a current candidate for Oceanside City Council, I carry my beliefs regarding cannabis forward. I believe it's important to listen to the constituency and to promote the will of the people. Public service shouldn't be about self-promotion or personal beliefs. It should be about serving the people and carrying their interests and requests to the finish line. I strongly believe that access to medical and recreational cannabis is necessary for the thousands of residents experiencing anxiety or PTS, recovering from cancer, and suffering from chronic pain. We need to ensure that our residents have safe and legal access to the medications that allow them to live much more fulfilling, pain-free lives. I am wholeheartedly in support of bringing cannabis to Oceanside, and I look forward to a robust conversation today about how we can make that a reality.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. All right. So let me jump out of here. Okay. So go ahead and just dive right in. So for all the participants and everybody else joining, want this to be more of a conversation. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns or anything else going on, go ahead and post it in the chat and we'll get to it. So we're all kind of friends here, so definitely want this to be all of us talking together versus talking at each other, right? So so yeah, that being said, we've kind of discussed what your main issues are and everything in kind of what's going on in Oceanside and everything, but also just want to start off with, what are some of the, what are the issues that are going on, and what do you think cannabis can do to help some of those issues that the city's facing at the moment?
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of issues happening in Oceanside, and one of the big problems that we have here is we never seem to have enough money to deal with them. It's always, kick the can down the road. We'll get to it when we can get to, unless, of course, we want to build a pool, in which case we'll get that done. So really and truly, I mean, the financial aspect of it isn't my priority. It never has been. I've always been about patients and patient access. But the reality is, it's also a cash boon for many municipalities. And in this time of COVID and the economic uncertainty that's coming, and actually that we're living right now, this has enormous potential, if done right, to help boost our budget, to help boost our coffers, and allow us to tackle the other issues that we need to deal with. So I think it's a win-win. Patients get what they need, everybody else gets what they need, and the city gets a little bit in their kitten too. So.
Yeah, Michelle, you have anything to add there?
Absolutely. We've been really talking in Oceanside since 2017, maybe some of us a little bit before then, but as a city since 2017, trying to bring legal access to our city residents, and it's been a struggle. We started out with a ad hoc committee that did the work. We had a council that just didn't hear those voices and basically, like Amber said, kicked the can down the alley, wasn't receptive to those items that was put forward from that committee. And then now we're dealing with initiatives that have been stalled. We were on our second initiative that's been stalled due to COVID. The residents really want safe and legal access. And we need to do everything we can as a council to provide, and as a city to provide that access. And for some reason, we just see time and time again that that's not receptive, and that people on our local municipality just don't have the interest in hearing the will of the voters.
Yeah, and I think the kind of the disconnect between council and the residents of Oceanside is very stark. I mean, two of the five folks on council were appointed anyway, so I'd say that voters really haven't had a chance to have their say in in who's actually being elected. So that's why I'm really excited that both of y'all are running. Did want to get to kind of the taxation rates and some of the revenue things that you discussed, Amber. I know that the city is looking to put a tax measure on the ballot. Want to see if either of you had any comments on those. Read the staff reports on that, and the numbers that they're throwing around just are a little off in my opinion. And what they're proposing is going to be a little high on a taxation rate. In fact, I've already spoken to a couple of different potential operators that are looking at Oceanside, and when you mentioned what the city is potentially trying to tax, they lose interest immediately. So, do y'all have any comments on any of that?
Absolutely. I
Go
know.
ahead, Michelle.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I know the council has agendized this discussion for taxing, and I believe that's on the agenda for August 8th. I haven't seen their agenda to know exactly what they're proposing, but some of the comments that I've heard in the past really are focusing on a canopy tax, which is a no-go. I don't think that we should be taxing, everything rather than, just what goes to market, because what happens if you have a bad crop? Also, deliveries, delivery fees are going to be high, retail fees are going to be high. Personally, in my family, I don't think it's a secret that my husband is a cannabis user, and I find it very disturbing that we have to travel to a neighboring city and contribute our money to their tax revenue because we don't have sensible and regulation here in Oceanside. That's problematic for me. But the taxes that they're proposing are so high that we're going to be lucky if we find people and businesses that are willing to come here in the first place. So we really need to look at this from the framework of we want cannabis in our community. We need to make sure that it's beneficial to both the businesses and the consumers. And we need to really try to increase some of our revenue stream in the city, especially dealing with COVID and how we're having to deal with, lost revenues. We have an opportunity to have a win-win here for businesses, for community members, for our cannabis, users. Everybody has an opportunity to really benefit if we do this right. And right now it doesn't look like that's what's on the table, but we'll have to see what they actually come back with.
Yeah, I agree. I have made it very clear to the people that I've talked to about the last tax proposal that I read that I was absolutely opposed. It was a canopy tax, which for the very reasons that Michelle stated, I do not support. It needs to be based on what goes to market. The tax they were proposing for manufacturing and distribution was a 4% gross receipts tax, which I think is a little excessive considering you're talking about business to business transactions. No other wholesale transactions in any other industry are taxed like that. Are taxed at all, quite frankly. You've got the exemption if it's B2B. And then their proposed tax for the 2 delivery services, only one of which is operating, by the way, is 5%. And my understanding in the original proposal by HDL, and there's another problem with the proposal that it was by HDL, is that the city would have a sliding scale that they basically tried to recreate San Diego. Sliding scale between 5% and 15%, and they're being nice by starting out at the 5%. And anybody who's known the Oceanside Council know it's not going to take long for them to keep increasing and increasing because they're projecting numbers that are unattainable with what we have available now. They're looking to rival, even hoping to get half of what San Diego does with basically one delivery service that's medical only. It's asinine. And on top of that, 5% on our program is medical only. So really what they're doing is talking about sticking it to sick people. I mean, who does that? So no. That proposal is an absolute no-go. That being said, I was talking to one of our council members yesterday and have learned that the city has put forth, they've revised their offering. I keep checking it and it's not uploaded yet. It's supposed to be made available with the agenda today because it will be on the August 5th meeting. So we'll know more what they're actually proposing now once the agenda is up, but it's not there yet. Hopefully they've taken consideration of the feedback and learned a little bit, so, but we will see.
And Amber makes some excellent points. They're talking about taxing our medical patients, but yet we don't have exorbitant taxes on insulin or heart medication. So where's the justification? In addition to that, I also think it's important that we look at the fine print of what they're proposing, because they might start out at 5%, but how fast and how rapid and at what level are they going to increase that? Is that going to be something that changes on a 30-day increment? Is that something that's changing annually? We really need to really look deeply at what they're proposing and making sure that we're not getting completely gouged.
Yeah, the original proposal was at will increases because as long as the voters approve the range, the council has voter authority to do whatever they want within that range. So they could very easily start it out at 5% and say, gee, we're not making any money. And while the rest of us over here are going, I told you so, they're going, well, hey, let's go ahead and double that. And they would be well within their authority to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, in you know what we've seen in other jurisdictions. So on the taxation rate for you know, manufacturing, cultivation, all the kind of the supply chain aspect. I mean, you have Long Beach and Costa Mesa that reduced theirs to 1%, and then all the jurisdictions around there are now kind of looking to lower theirs as well so that they can compete, because everybody's now trying to go to those jurisdictions with the lower tax rate. So, you know, if they stay around that, you know, that 4%, or they, you know, they do gross sales on everybody from 5 to 15, they're just not going to get the investment at all. So I think you're right. They're then going to just jack up the prices to make up, or jack up the tax anyways, to make up for the lost revenue that they were expecting. So yeah, very problematic. You know, we'll see what the final details are. Like you said, Michelle. So that would be very interesting. Did want to talk about, I guess, other types of policies that need changing, or what other types of things that you would do differently than is in the current ordinance. I know a few folks, you know, especially with events right now, it's really tough to have the conversation, but everything around on-site consumption, you know, that's something that's been really lacking in California, across the country, actually. You know, there's really nowhere to consume these products unless you own your home, right? So that's just kind of a foray in, maybe one of the things you might consider. But what are some of the other policy changes that you would like to see made to the current ordinance?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of changes that we need to make. Absolutely. The first step is the easy one. You add dispensaries, and B, you add adult use. The council did recently approve adult use for cultivation, but cultivation only. You know, because they recognized that the medical market is this much compared to the adult use market that is this much. And they felt that the cultivators should have access to the full range of the market. But apparently they didn't feel the same way for the manufacturers, the distributors, and the delivery service. It's discriminatory, it's ridiculously wrong. So that's the first thing you do, is you adult use across the board. You add storefronts, and absolutely on-site consumption is something that, especially because we're a tourist destination, you know, and we would end up with the same issues that they had in Colorado, where you've got tourists coming in, they're going, hey, look, I get to go to the dispensary and I get to buy this, and I get to buy it, and now what? Because they can't smoke it outside, they can't take it to the park, they can't smoke it in their hotel, or whatever the case may be. So on-site consumption is absolutely important, and I think, and we did have that in the last initiative that we were circulating pre-COVID. It allowed licensed dispensaries to have an add-on permit to allow consumption on site, you know, under specific parameters. And I think that's definitely something that needs to be maintained as far as city policy goes. It needs to be incorporated. Yeah. Oh, and we need to expand cultivation beyond the Morrow Hills area. We need to allow for indoor cultivation in warehouses.
I would say that Amber really covered the gamut. The only thing I would add to that is compassionate use facilities. I think that we have the ability to bring compassionate use with cannabis lounges. We can use the revenue from cannabis lounges to offset costs for compassionate use. And I think that's something that's critically important, especially when we're dealing with opioid crises and homeless veterans and you know, various issues where compassionate use is something that we should really be putting forward as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point. All right, well, unfortunately we got started a little bit late, so we're about out of time here. Wanted to see if anybody had any questions or comments for Amber or Michelle here. I think Gloria, Ryan, you had one. I think we kind of touched on that. I don't know if that answered your question or not. If you had any other, I guess, comments on that, please type in the chat, and we'll get to it if you need any follow up there.
I would like to address her question. I think I understand where she's coming from. You know, she was part of the ad hoc, Gloria was part of the ad hoc committee for bringing cannabis to Oceanside. And I think what her question is really, where do we go from here? what are our options? You know, we've had 2 initiatives that haven't gone to fruition. So where do we go from here? And I think where we go from here is we elect the people that are supportive of the will of the people. So we have an opportunity in 2020 to elect cannabis-friendly council members. Should that not occur, we're back to an initiative process. So it's critically important that we get behind the candidates that are very supportive of what we want in our city. Like I said, because other than that, we're going to be dragging it out a minimum of 2 more years. We started in 2017. If we go out 2 more years, that's 5 years before we still haven't gotten anything that we've actually wanted or asked for. So I think that answers her questions, like where do we go? We elect the right people. And unless we can do that, we're going to continue to drag this process out.
Yeah, I absolutely. At this point, we know with the current makeup of our council, there are 2 sitting council members that will be there no matter what after the next election. But those other 3, we have candidates running for those 3 seats that are cannabis friendly. So we've got a very real opportunity to create the majority we need to get it done. So that's the most important thing. That's step 1 is get the cannabis friendly majority. And you know, you got 2 of them right here. So we start there, and you know, if the worst should happen, then yeah, we're back to voter initiative.
Awesome. Okay. All right. And then just one last thing, and then we'll have to jump. Michael Sather, he asked, do you see on-site consumption at dispensaries only, or do you see lounges opening up as separate businesses, kind of like restaurants?
Right. I actually, you know, and then that's going to depend on the council makeup. I think that depending on what happens with the election, it might be easier to get them started out by attaching them to dispensaries. However, if we are able to flip these 3 seats and make them cannabis friendly, I do think that we can move forward with actual consumption lounges. That ultimately is what I would like to see. So I think it's going to depend on the makeup of the council after November, where we go ahead and take that jump. Do we need to kind of ease it in, you know, alongside with the dispensaries, or can we just go full board? So.
I agree with what Amber said. You know, we're kind of in a position, and we put ourselves in a position here in Oceanside that we're going to take what we can get. Ultimately, I would like to see them as separate facilities, but we'll take what we can get. As a tourist destination, it's critically important that we have on-site consumption at some level. Otherwise, what are we doing, and how are we benefiting tourists that come to our city? So I think that I would support anything that they're willing to give us at this point, with the ultimate goal of separate facilities, very similar to what they have in San Francisco, where they are able to filter the air. You can walk by it up as an establishment. There's no odor. You know, there's things that can be done that are environmentally conscious and safe. And I think that that's the direction that I would really like to see us go.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, that's time. We got to move on to our San Diego participants. So I guess any quick last words before we go?
The only thing I would add is, again, really talk to your friends, talk to your family members. It's critically important to the residents of Oceanside that are medicinal patients that want recreational use as well, that we elect the right people. So really help us in that regard. It's very, very important. And again, thank you for having us today. It's nice to be able to talk about an issue that is so critically important to our residents. And again, thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. Just spread the word, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, donate, volunteer, just help us. Yeah, we need, we're both fighting uphill climbs. We're fighting a machine in Oceanside, and you know that. So just all the support we can get will be greatly appreciated. And yeah, also thank you very much for having this forum.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you both very much for joining us. We'll go ahead and post these videos on our website afterwards, and we'll go ahead and link to your pages as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.